Welcome to our signature segment, See the Stories. Our today's guest is a content creator about animal nurturing. But what's interesting with his videos is that the animal he nurtures are wild animals. Wouldn't that be dangerous? To answer that, we have here with us Tyler, or as known on TikTok, Tyler Among Animals. Hello, Tyler. Hi, how are you today?
Hi, I'm very good. Thanks for having me today.
Alright, Tyler, so I have seen your videos in your Instagram and TikTok account, and I must say that they're really interesting, which makes me curious, Tyler, what actually led you into this profession of nurturing wild animals?
Well, honestly, I spend way too much time around animals, so my people skills aren't what they used to be. But my technical name would be animal caretaker. My family and I own a animal park, and I've been working with animals since I was just a small child. So I've been working with a bunch of different animals. Right now, I take care of them, I clean up after them, I feed them, and I also build enclosures.
Yeah, I see your videos. You share a really deep bond with the animals that you are taking care of. I see this Eddie, I think, this Jimmy, right? Yeah, it's
Yeah.
really interesting to see. So can you share with us what are the animals that you are currently taking care of? And maybe also introduce to us some of their names.
Well, like you said, I take care of a bunch of different animals, mostly mammals. I take care of large mammals like bison, yaks, camels, water buffalo, bears, a couple different types of birds like ostriches, emus, parakeets, that kind of stuff. And then we recently got alligators, which I'm very excited about. Like you said, there's Eddie the prairie dog. We've got Jimmy the ostrich. Some of the bears are Pooh and Honey. Scooby and Shaggy are the brown bears. Our biggest bison is Big John. Our camels are Sandman, and we have April, Carmen, Chloe, a whole bunch of different animals. So
That's really interesting. So, Tyler, taking care of these animals, especially wild animals, it must be difficult because they have a different way of communicating, right? So, how long did it actually take you to form a bond with each of these animals?
well, yeah, like you said, there's different challenges with the different types of animals. Some of the animals are technically domesticated, and others are animals like the bears. You can't domesticate them. They are not out in the wild, so they are more used to people. But it definitely is a different type of interaction than you'd say with like just an average dairy cow. You got to be kind of a lot more alert with them because when they want to play, it can be a little more rough than with other animals. Uh, and it's a lot of it is a food based. I make sure when I'm with the bears that I have something to distract them from me. If I'm their primary attention, they want to play, and that can cause me injuries because they're stronger than I am, and they have sharp teeth, claws, all that kind of stuff. But even the more domesticated animals are going to be dangerous as well. Like the ostriches, during certain times of the year, they can get very aggressive. Even the bison, when they're around the females when they're around their babies, or the males when they are around their girlfriends, they get very protective. So there's a lot of being cautious and careful. You want to read each animal, kind of know what each animal's tell is. The bison will pin their ears back and start to kind of flag their tail. That's a sign of they're not really happy with what you're doing. The ostriches, they'll stand up to their full height, and that can get kind of intimidating. But it's a lot of to build the bond of friendship. It just takes a lot of time and effort. Let them know that you care. They can sense your emotions. So if you're always angry or nervous or on edge, they can sense it. So if you're calm, they're most likely going to stay calm.
Okay, so you just shared with us the methods in handling each of the animals. And if you could rate them, which ones are the easiest to the hardest to form a bond with?
I would say the easiest would definitely be the bears. I've worked with Pooh and Honey, are younger black bears, since they were cubs. So they definitely formed a kind of a parental attachment. But as they get older and closer to my age, I guess you could say it's more of a camaraderie, brother, sister, that kind of thing. So it's getting a lot more playful in that direction. The harder ones I feel like are the birds and the reptiles. They don't really have, some birds will form a bond, but like with Jimmy and stuff, it's more just instinct. Um, he is very motivated by his different hormones and stuff, and that's why you see him dancing, that kind of thing. Um, it definitely isn't of a friendship, because if he gets angry, he could turn on me way faster than like the bears would. That would be more, the bears would be more of a warning. With Jimmy, it's more of a, nope, I'm done with you. We're not friends anymore kind of thing. Like with the bison, they have a herd, so there is more of a bond that they form between each other. So if I'm accepted into the herd, then there would be more of a bond between us. Um, so basically, it's the herd animals versus the solitary animals. Even with the bears, they can be a little more solitary, but when they're with each other, there's kind of friendship. You can see a bond between, we have multiple different black bears in one large enclosure, and they all kind of get along pretty well. When we introduced Pooh and Honey into that, we had an older bear. His name was Juice. He was just a year older than Pooh and Honey, and he was kind of a loner because the facility he came from, he was all alone. He didn't have any friends. So when he came to our place, he was a loner. But then when Pooh and Honey went out there, they kind of formed like a triplet bond, and now they're all friends. So there's always a bond between all these animals, and if I can get accepted into that, then it's a lot easier for me.
So they are all put in one place?
Yeah, we've got different enclosures for different types of species, but we have a very large enclosure for all of our older black bears. The younger ones stay in a smaller area until they get big enough to go out with the older ones. But like Jimmy and all the other ostriches are out in their own enclosure. They actually share an enclosure with the bison, but they get along just fine, so it's not a big deal. Our yaks and our fallow deer are together in a large enclosure. Camels and cows are together. Some of the camels are separate just because male-female reasons, but yeah, we try to do interspecies things, just if it's safe for the animals, of course, but we try to just, it gives them something else to see, something else to do, than just playing with animals of their own species.
Which one of these animals get along the most?
It's actually kind of funny because the other day, one of our baby yaks, which is just like a fluffy cow, was playing with one of the adult fallow deer. It was the male fallow deer was laying there with his antlers out, and the little yak was rubbing on it like a scratching post. So they definitely get along pretty good. It's kind of funny to watch the babies of those two get along, and even the adults and the babies, they kind of all formed one big herd.
Okay, for you, it must be very dangerous being around these wild animals, right? Have you ever suffered an accident? Maybe you could share with us.
Well, thankfully, I haven't had any major accidents. I've had my fair fair amount of close calls, cuts, bruises, that kind of thing. I got hit in the leg pretty hard once by an antler. It didn't penetrate the skin, but it did leave a pretty good bruise. I've had some pretty close calls though. Recently, I got a radio call about a bison calf that was acting kind of weird. So I went out there to check on it, and I like to think of myself as an animal professional, but you always make one of those mistakes, And my mistake was I got out, and the mom bison was right there, and she didn't like me being by her baby. So she come running at me full speed. And luckily I had the, reflexes. I grabbed her by the horns and turned her as I spun out of the way, kind of like those old bullfighters you see. And I luckily got spun out of the way enough that she didn't get me, but it was definitely one of the closest calls I've had.
Okay, that's with you, but what about with the animals? When you said they're interacting with each other, they're being friendly with each other, have one of the animals ever, because you said some are stronger than the others, have
Right.
they ever hurt the other animals?
We make sure to monitor everybody closely. We put animals in with each other that we know will be friendly. That's why we keep the bears away from the other animals, of course. There have been some sparring, but it's mostly friendly, playful, that kind of stuff. When I feed them, I make sure to feed everybody far away from each other so there's not food competition, that kind of thing. That's when you're going to get your biggest issues, is over food. So if I can keep the piles spread out enough, it's fairly safe for everybody.
Okay, right. I've seen your videos. They're really interesting to watch. Some of them are like super funny. I like when Jimmy is dancing around. those are my favorite videos. So when you are making these videos, right, what is the most memorable ones that you make?
Honestly, like you said, it's the Jimmy dancing videos. One day I went out in the enclosure and he reached the age where he started noticing, well, he should start noticing females. He doesn't have anyone with him right now just because if you have female and male ostriches together, it can cause very dangerous issues. The males get very protective. So when he does his I want a girlfriend dance, it's for anything else. And when I went out there and seen him doing that, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is hilarious. I've got to get a film of that. So I started filming just him doing the dancing, and I thought, you know what? What if I start dancing with him? What's the worst that could happen? So I started dancing too, and it just blew up. Everybody seemed to really enjoy that. So now whenever I can, I try to get video of me and him dancing together.
Okay, which one of these animals would you say is the most camera friendly? Is it Jimmy, or is there any other ones that's more like, you know, when they see a cat, when you're holding the camera and they're like acting up right away?
Well, like you said, Jimmy is very photo friendly. When he goes into that dance, it's kind of like a trance, and that's all he's going to do is dance. So that's when I can get the camera set up. The other animals, it's more like when I'm filming with Haas or Watusi, the guy with the big horns. He is more, if I pet him, he's good at being in front of the camera. If I don't, the camera kind of makes him nervous. With the bears, it's food related stuff. I can keep them fed, keep them entertained. It keeps them from trying to eat the camera, because that's what they're going to do, is try to eat everything or play with it. Same with Big John. If he gets apples, our bison, I give him apples. We call it the apple tax. It helps keep him focused on that and not on what I'm doing. But camels, all those kind of animals, they're pretty easy to film. They're pretty friendly. So.
All right. Tyler, I am looking right now, your TikTok, it's right here.
Okay.
And I could see that you have 1.6 million followers and 52.6 million likes. That's really impressive.
Thank you.
So do you have any, strategy that you think makes people drawn into your account? As you know, there are many content creators out there that are making animal videos about animals, but what do you think attracts people to your account?
Well, I like to think it's my sparkling personality, but I'm a little more realistic than that. I think it's the awe that it inspires. I get a lot of comments about, oh, I really want to be an animal caretaker. How do I get into that profession? I think there's also a lot of people that are just like, oh my goodness, I can't believe this guy is out there with a bear. That's just crazy. It's that forbidden aspect too that I feel like people are drawn to. And I also try to make some funny videos. I don't know if my sense of humor comes across funny for everybody else, but so far it seems to be working. So.
Okay, so can I actually ask that question? What can you actually do in order to be an animal caretaker? I mean, you have the opportunity since a kid, your parents have this animal caretaking place, but if someone actually would like to be you, to be able to nurture these animals, what can they actually do?
Well, like you said, if I started out in a different way where I'm just trying to go to college, figure out what I'm going to do, there's a lot of different ways you could go about it. You could try to go into one of the big government-funded zoos. That's going to be a lot more time intensive. They have a lot of classes, that kind of thing. Like you said, I was raised in this field, so I have a lot of hands-on experience. That's where all my knowledge comes from, is real-world experience. A lot of people will have to either find someone who's willing to take them under their wing, or you can take all those college courses and get into those zoos. There's a lot of smaller family-run zoos around that I feel like people don't know about. There's a lot of good ones, there's a lot of bad ones. But I definitely would recommend trying to find those kind of places where you could get a little more hands-on experience, where there isn't as much red tape. They are more willing to teach you it's not like a good old boys club anymore, where the big zoos are more they want the people that they already know. Other places are more willing to take people in who want to learn, want to care for animals, and will teach you these things instead of going to a college where you could learn them that way. So there's multiple different routes to do. I'm not saying one's better than the other. This was just the one that I happened to get into. So.
Yep. For those audience who would want to be an animal caretaker, would you be able to share us the list of the do's and the don'ts when handling with these animals?
Well, I definitely recommend to always pay attention to the animal. Statistic-wise, more people are killed by cows than by bears, and that's because people obviously have a lot more cows around. But you just don't think about cows being dangerous. But all animals are dangerous. You just got to pay attention to what's going to happen. That's my biggest. What you should do. What I wouldn't do is let your guard down. Again, it's all about these animals are dangerous. You need to know which animal's going to do which, and obviously you want to know what animal eats what's the proper care. Enrichment for each animal is going to be different. Enrichment's very important, especially for the bears. That's the number one biggest thing I feel like when you're taking care of a bear is they need something to do. They need to keep their mind moving because they are the smartest mammal in North America. And you can't just put them in an enclosure and say, okay, entertain yourself. They need puzzles, they need to find food, that kind of thing. With other animals, it's not as much. There's easier ways to give them enrichment, just such as putting hay in a net so they have to pull it out, that kind of thing. So enrichment's important, making sure that you are always paying attention to the animal is important, and then just having care for the animal, wanting to take care of them. You know, if it's just a job to you, the animal isn't going to get the full care that it deserves. So make sure you love your job if that's the job you're going to go into.
All right, last, I'm going to ask you a tricky question. I'm going to ask you, as the parent of these animals, which one of your children do you like the most?
Well, that's kind of a hard question. You put it that way. You're making me choose a favorite child, but I would honestly say Pooh Bear, our male black bear, is my favorite. He's very friendly towards me. He does get a little playful. A couple times I've had some bruises and scrapes from him, but you know, it's just part of the job. But yeah, he's definitely one of the best. I mean, but Eddie's pretty great. The little prairie dog, he gets excited to see me. He prefers my wife over me though, so that kind of hurts a little bit, but that's all right. I can't blame him. She's pretty great. Jimmy's pretty cool. I do enjoy hanging out with him. Just for an animal to look at, Hoss is such a majestic animal. Our Watusi, he just, from a distance, you can see he's just an amazing creature to see.
That's really interesting. Tyler, would you be able to show us some of the animals right now?
And here's the world famous dancing ostrich, Jimmy. So this big fur ball is Pooh Bear. He's a 3-year-old American black bear. This big guy is Hoss, our Ankoli Watusi, and this is Socks, one of our dromedary camels. So this is Herman. He's one of our prairie dogs. I think Eddie's sleeping right now, so we probably won't see him.
All right, thank you so much, Tyler, for your time.
Thank you so much for sharing with us your experience and also the process of making your videos.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed it as well. Like I said, I spend a lot of time with animals, so everything else is a little strange, but you know, I do my best. So thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Right, if you have the chance to come by to Indonesia, you should stop by our studio.
Oh, for sure. I would definitely do that.
All right, thank you.